Hey, buddy.
Hey man, what's going on, bud?
Not much. Oh, hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you can turn
Oh,
your camera off. It's okay.
trust me, I don't like to look at myself.
Beyond that, last time we were together, I had a sinus infection, and that
Yeah,
ended up being COVID. Um,
right.
so I think I should still have immunity when going to see Deceased in a few weeks.
Hmm.
But it does make me feel very leery about going out into seeing shows again. It's like not only did I get sick, but everyone else in the house did. You know, but I'm really just there to see King and I want to and want to spend that show with you. I want to see that show with you if you're able to go.
Yeah,
I think it'll be a lot of fun. They put on a really good show and it's very entertaining. And it'd be nice for us to get some pics together with King, that'll be all right.
yeah.
But yeah, so I mean we're gonna kind of play it by ear. My ticket's already
Well,
purchased, so I'm already there.
for today's assignment, I didn't. I got some physical examples. I couldn't find all of them that I wanted. Um, and I didn't read the assignment. I mean, I didn't pick three songs from each album choice I
Yeah,
made.
two's fine.
Um, I just got some examples of basically the memories that I have with how I got introduced to them.
Oh, sure.
The
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
the song that I think that would greatly introduce a fan who's never heard before,
Yeah.
and yeah, just some personal memories as well on how I got introduced to them. The first time I heard and
Hmm.
what that meant to me and carried me on as a fan. So I just wanted to clarify on that.
No, that sounds good. Yeah, I got mine picked. I mean, five is almost impossible. So I got like four extra, you know. Uh I mean they're just too many to do,
There are so many.
five. But
But this will be fun though. This will be interesting
yeah, I
to.
think so. I think it'll be fun,
We
you know.
might have some, crossover, and there might
I
be
think we
some things
will.
we may say. Yeah,
I think we'll have some crossover for sure. Yeah, I've got a new cap the other day. Can you read it or no?
no.
It's Opeth. It's an Opeth hat.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, you're okay.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
nice.
Opeth. Yeah,
Oh, that's a nice hat.
it was like $14. I'm like,
Oh
okay,
yeah, yeah,
why not?
yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna look at, I've become a hat guy. So many different hats now. Usually I only had like one hat before, one or two,
You're
and
welcome to come to the club with that. 'Cause,
yeah,
this is everybody sees me in anymore, so it covers up my bald spot too and everything. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
yeah. I got a nice one. I got a nice classic male pattern baldness going on. So I just
Yeah,
just
you
shave my head. Just beat it to the punch. You
right out
know,
of it.
I remember when I was beautiful with my golden curly locks.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh yes,
You know,
so beautiful.
you're Fabio. Yeah.
That's right.
All those,
All
me
the
and Jen,
girls on the
we went
fourth
through that.
floor in the dorm would come down and say, "Can we do your hair?" Yes. I was like a living Barbie head to them. My size
Goldie,
Barbie.
Goldilocks.
Yeah. Is your hair natural? Yes. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful.
I
So
had,
like that.
I had another idea for a show idea that
Yeah.
get maybe some other people involved in it as a general discussion. You see more and more uh, these legacy bands, and especially the front men, they're dying off or retired. It's like, where do we see it, transitioning to? Who's holding the mantle for metal going forward? Is there
Mm.
anything, you know what I'm saying? I think that would be an interesting discussion kind of episode to say, kind of
Yeah.
roundtable talk to say, yeah, we lost Ronnie James. Ozzy is greatly and continuing to decline health wise.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
about this last concert they're going to
Oh
do.
yeah, you're right. Did you?
Well, I think
Yeah,
he's going to have a minimal impact. He's probably just going to be on stage. He's probably going to be sitting, probably going to kind of
yeah.
sing a couple lines.
Let
It's
me
it's a
see your lights.
it's a cash grab for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it's for Sharon. And
Yeah,
she's gonna milk that fucking money train as far as she can.
it'll be
Uh,
painful, you know.
yeah, I don't I have no desire to even watch it. I think it's
Yeah, no,
you
I
know,
like that, and I like the idea of like
because Rob Halford's getting him, even though he sounds tremendous these last two Priest albums,
mm,
he's still holding it live somewhat.
yeah,
But he's getting to that point.
yeah, they're all
Bruce and
getting old.
Maiden,
I
we don't
mean,
know. So it's like,
yeah,
where do we go with our our
Yeah.
famous legacy
Nico
singer came
Nico
in.
just retired,
Yeah,
because he couldn't handle it. I mean, I just saw a video of I mean, he had that stroke and it was just too much for him. And I'm not, I mean, my goodness, the guy was played with Maiden for 40 years, I mean,
yes,
goodness,
sir.
great run, phenomenal drummer.
Yeah,
Um, and I just saw a video of Mike Portnoy talking about how much drumming hurts his body anymore.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because
I
he's
watched that too.
58. Yeah,
Yeah,
and like, I know during the last like Rush tour, Neil Peart did not even want to do that tour because the physicality of drumming, because he's a hard hitter, was a
yeah.
hard hitter. It just took a toll on his body, and so they had adjusted their, playing schedule to give him more time, rest. But he was really glad that tour was over, just because it just took a toll on his body.
And I heard
So
through another podcast that even Geezer Butler now says he can only stand to play like 2, 3 songs on
yeah,
bass anymore. It's just too
yeah.
much to of the
So
year.
when we do Lounge of Heaven, we're gonna make sure we have nice, comfy seats, so we don't have to worry about that shit. We're gonna get some like, we're gonna get our rascal scooters. We're just gonna drive on stage and just sit there and
Yeah,
wheel around.
I want to throw buckets of water out and do
Yeah.
my frog
Well,
leap.
yeah, this is gonna be fun. We're gonna have a good time.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think we should be ready to get into it. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, Chop. Well, I guess we should get this going, shouldn't we?
Let's do it, bro.
All right.
Hey man, this is Trevor William Church of Haunt and Beastmaker, and you're watching Heavy Metal Horror. Thank you.
I am Montag, master of illusion. What goes up must come down, but not always.
Hey, this is Choptop, and this one's going to be progressive. Rock on.
And you are watching and listening to Heavy
Heavy
Metal
metal.
Horror. Oh, kitties. Well, tonight we've got a really fun show. I'm calling it "It's Better Than Bad, It's Good." It's Prog. It's Prog. Remember that from Ren and Stimpy? It's Log.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to talk about our favorite progressive bands. We're going to limit it to 5. But I've got a few more on the docket. Um, so I think it's important that we kind of talk a little bit about what prog is, how we view progressive music, progressive metal, progressive rock, and those kinds of things. So when you think about prog, what are the things that stand out to you, Chop?
When I think about prog, I think it's the composition of the song. It's the time signature changes. It's you know the tempo changes. I think lyrically, a lot of prog stuff. Sometimes be a lot of fantasy kind of uh, stuff, or some more darker areas lyrically. And I think then you have to have a front man that kind of carries that as well, in step with those time changes and everything else. And I think there's some keyboards involved in there. Sometimes some bands overdo them, I think, too much. But I think you got to have the keys in there. You got to have the time signatures. You got to have these incredible drummers and drum patterns going on. You got to have top-notch guitarist, top of the class, and then you have to have a front man who can again carry those time signatures and takes the band a unique way based on his or her voice.
Okay. Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think about the composition of the song. It's got to be
Yep.
adventurous. It's got to be something unique and different and away from the status quo. It doesn't have to be long, but a lot of progressive metal bands or progressive rock bands have long songs
Mhm.
because they orchestrate these pieces that are like classically many multiple parts and themes that get brought back around in, and you also have time for the musicianship to show, whether it's extended musical pieces, not necessarily just solos, but just complicated musicianship
Yeah,
on display throughout. And it doesn't have to be one style. It could be very, variety of styles. But the musicianship has to be number one and seller
yeah,
and something different than other people are doing. It's not, you're not going to get most prog bands you're not going to hear on the radio. Maybe some radio friendly songs, I'm sure we'll have some similarities on the bands we're going to talk about. But oftentimes these are bands that are appealing to other musicians, especially because they know what it takes to make, good music, and like they admire the musicianship. So but I think I'm excited to hear what some of your favorites are. And so I'll let you begin with, now they're in no order for me. I just
Okay.
kind of have them listed. So what's the first one on your list?
I'm going to begin. First one on my list is a band formed in 1994 in New Jersey, and it is Symphony X.
Oh, okay.
Now, my first introduction to this band was on Gigantor. Um, I saw them live, and that was with Megadeth. I think Nevermore was on that as well, Fear Factory, and some others. But actually, I got this is a signed copy of the Odyssey, their album,
Very nice.
and I think they were on tour for this. I purchased it at the gig, and it was like $20 to get the CD, but then you got the autographs for free, and the band's set up right in the front. You're like, okay, that's a deal. Um, but what I love about this is number one, Michael Romeo is a guitar pyrotechnic. He is amazing. Very neoclassically influenced. You can hear just about everything he does, but it's not overdone, a la Yngwie Malmsteen or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, the riffing is tremendous. Russell Allen, powerful, uh, gritty kind of voice, just matches the riffing to this band. And the rhythm section is just as solid as anyone across the board. So Symphony X is definitely a favorite of mine. If I had to, there's another album I couldn't get it out right now. Paradise Lost is really highly recommended. But if I
Are
had to
they do they're doing a songs or their albums, are they concept albums,
concept, I believe I
or is there
believe
some
this
kind of
is
theme connecting them?
yeah,
I've
I believe
listened to
like the
Symphony X,
Odyssey.
but not very much.
I believe the Odyssey, actually track 8 broken up into 7 parts is 24 minutes long. It's called the
There you go.
Odyssey. And I believe that's their concept theme for
Is,
this. I don't
is
think the
it
rest
based
of
on
it.
Homer's epic? Is it based on the Odyssey?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, nice.
And
Nice.
it is phenomenal. But I would tell people to start with the first track, Inferno, in parentheses, Unleash the Fire.
Okay.
Um, the riffing on that, pretty much you're gonna like that. You're gonna pretty much like anything that Symphony X does.
Yeah.
My God, it's just heavy as hell. It just gets the blood pumping. And like I said, I can't say enough about Michael Romeo's guitar player. I have his two of his 3 solo albums, War of the Worlds and then War of the Worlds Part Two. Hence going after War of the Worlds thing,
Nice.
which is unique because he has the rockers in there, but then he has these cinematic orchestrated pieces, just music.
Hmm.
Like he'll have a track of total,
Oh,
vocals and standard, and
almost
then
like a soundtrack for a movie kind of thing, or a
yeah,
scenario.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
that's cool.
soundscape. I recommend out of that. I know we're talking about Symphony X, but he is part of that. I'd recommend War of the Worlds Part Two. It's just stronger. They brought in Dino Jaluzik on vocals, which nobody's heard Dino Jaluzik. Go out and hear him. The kid's fucking awesome. Um, he's been in bands like Animal Drive, Jaluzik. He's done a project with George Lynch, X Doc, and Lynch Mob called Dirty Shirley. Fantastic vocalist. He carry any fucking tune you can think of. But he does an outstanding job on that, and highly recommend War of the Worlds Part Two, and then The Odyssey and Paradise Lost from Symphony X.
Nice. All right. Well, my first pick um, is Yes. They are, I think, one of the grandfathers of progressive metal music, right from the late 60s, early 70s. Their first album doesn't sound progressive. They kind of grow into their sound. But the 3 albums that I want to talk about is 1971's The Yes album, and 2 of the songs that are really great off of that one, Starship Trooper and I've Seen All
Mm,
Good People.
yeah.
Probably have heard I've Seen All Good People is a lot more common and maybe
Yeah, on the
even
radio.
sometimes
Yeah.
on a radio friendly, even though that one's got some of the hallmarks. You got these great riffing, but it's a little more catchy. It has like the beat and the rhythm that it could be like a poppy. But that whole album, really, this one they said, we're gonna go lean into this whole prog thing. So yeah, those would be the two tracks off of that one. My second album is Fragile from 1972, and you got Roundabout, which definitely
Mhm.
was a radio song, and Long Distance Runaround.
Okay, yeah.
Off those two tracks are really good. And then 72's Close to the Edge, which I think the song Close to the Edge has a big influence on 2112 that we'll see 4 years later. I mean, Rush gets a lot of its sound from Yes. And
Mhm.
so, especially early on, they were definitely influences. And then the other track on Close to the Edge is Siberian Khatru, I think also. And these songs are really complex and show the musicianship that Yes has and those harmonies. They have really wonderful harmonies. Um, then I have what's called the one song to rule them all. Like if I had to pick one song to convince anyone to give Yes a chance, it would be Heart of the Sunrise on Fragile.
Mm.
Um, I just love this track. Get these really great drumming, and right off the bat, we got this really kind of complex drum beats and syncopated off rhythms, and then you hear just soaring vocals. It is like the epitome of Yes for me. It's my favorite Yes song. Um, yeah, Heart of the Sunrise. So if you've never listened to Yes, kids, do yourself a favor, get out there and give them a try. Um, yeah, they've spawned in different iterations over the years once they broke up, but they still have just stellar musicianship. Even though these albums are over 50 years old, I think it's a testament to how good they are and how fresh they still sound, today. So definitely, they were not the first prog band, but first, I
Right.
think, really commercially huge prog band. So
Yeah.
there's my first pick is Yes.
Great choice, brother.
All right.
Going on with my next pick, I'm picking they formed in 1979 in Florida by John and Chris Saliva, Mighty Sabotage.
Hmm.
Um, been a huge Sabotage fan. When I got introduced to them, it was off their 87 offering, The Hall of the Mountain King.
Yes.
Saw that
It was
video.
big on MTV. It was
Yeah,
huge.
that heavy rotation at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck is this? I mean, let's put it out there. Chris Oliva is a guitar hero of mine. Uh, Unfortunately, he passed in 1993. He was killed in an accident, drunk driving accident, by a drunk driver. I mean, he was drunk. And that was very devastating. But musically, what's interesting about this band is they started off more like a traditional metal band.
Mhm.
And
Sirens.
gradually,
Yeah.
you sirens, yeah,
Yeah.
sirens,
I listened to this
and,
album, Hall of the Mountain King. I listened to that over at Dreadpool's house.
yeah,
We would listen to that that was on steady rotation when we were working on our D&D stuff together
right.
because we were so
And
fucking cool.
yeah. And what's interesting, like I said, they started a traditional metal band. And then I believe around the time, if I could point where maybe you see the progressive nature of their music started, I'd say off of Gutter Ballet, the
Hmm.
follow up to Hall of Mountain King, the title track alone with the piano and other stuff and
Yeah. Yeah. I
different
think
time
so. I think
signatures.
they were showing their roots.
Yeah. And so I think that was the start of it. Then they went on and did Streets of Rock Opera, which I think
Hmm.
is underrated. I think it's really good
Yeah.
concept album. Um, and then they did Edge of Thorns. When
Hmm.
John Oliva stepped down, Zach Stevens came in vocals. That really started to show progressive
Yeah.
nature.
I think musically, yes,
Um,
so they began to get definitely a lot more complicated,
yeah.
and a lot more orchestral, you
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some. This is like we said, Dungeons Are Calling and
Yeah.
Sirens.
Yeah.
Both there. Then I think you got to bring up the Zach Stevens stuff, which is just me and you both love this album. Um, but this is Wake of Magellan.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just highly underrated. Um,
It's
but I
phenomenal album.
yeah, but I think for me, if I had to give people a gateway where to start listening, because I think if you're going to like Sabotage, if you like this, you're going to like Sabotage overall. I'd say Gutter Ballet, the title track. I
Okay.
think that's where
Yeah.
it just starts the roots of everything, progressive
Yes.
nature, as
Yeah.
opposed
Especially on that
versus.
track, you hear those key, you hear those strings on
Yeah.
there. You know, it's part of the melody,
And
you
my
know?
God,
Yeah.
if you're a guitar fan, maniac like I am, I love, love, love Chris Oliva's work on guitar throughout their discography because of his tone, incredible riffs that he comes up with, and my God, the soloing is blistering. So, um, but yeah, I'd say start off there. If you like that, you're probably gonna like everything else.
Nice. Yeah, Sabotage was on my also rans list, you know, because they're just too good to ignore.
Yeah, yeah.
The two albums I had picked was one was Wake Up Magellan because it's phenomenal, and then also Dead Winter Dead,
Oh
which is
yeah,
about you know the street, you know,
yeah. I
Sarajevo.
got that one too. Go figure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I wait a minute, here's my surprise face. Uh, no, no, and because then every album that was coming out, we were like, oh my God, these are all concept albums. And Dead Winter Dead is
Mhm.
so heavy. It's such a dark album, because you know it's about the conflict in Sarajevo and you know
Right.
all these things going on. It's like you know what real substantial work here being done by them, and you know, and
Well,
then
go
oh.
ahead.
I was gonna say, then as they splintered off, then they've also formed other bands that you might see during the Christmas time with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
I was just
You,
going to say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Paul O'Neill, their longtime producer and a co-writer with the band, he really kind of transformed their sound as more a progressive metal band going forward. And of course, then putting together the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which is just a holiday ritual
Yeah, there are
anymore
two
every year.
versions of that because they tour. They have two different whole different touring companies. So
Oh,
they're playing usually. Yeah, they have two different TSOs. So there's because
okay.
there's one that comes to Cleveland every year, but there's also one that usually tours like hits on the West Coast. So they're like, why do one show when we can make the money from two? So
My daughter and her husband saw them. Is her first experience, and I was really surprised she went to a TSO show, but she got a T-shirt and she was just, Daddy, it was the most amazing thing. I
yeah,
was like, good for you. A little metal
yeah.
in your blood.
Yeah, their
So
music's phenomenal. Like if you're in the mood for that,
yeah.
non-traditional Christmas music, again, it's very operatic, it's very theatrical, orchestral, you know, but
Mhm.
it's good music for the season. Oh, nice.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very nice. All right, my number two pick, or second pick rather, not number two necessarily. I'm gonna go with Shaolin Death Squad. And
Okay.
yeah, we you know we had Matt Thompson, the drummer for King Diamond, was on. This is one of his other bands, and I came across them. Actually, it was right before Matt Thompson came on because I was like looking at other things that he had done, and I'm like, oh, Shaolin Death Squad, that sounds fun. Let me check him out, and like just blew me away. Like, oh my God, these guys are phenomenal. Um, I keep on. I wrote to him not too long ago. Go, hey, because Shaolin Death Squad, they're from Texas, where Matt is,
Hmm.
and they play locally. I said, "What's the chances you guys hitting the road and like coming to Cleveland?" He goes, "None." So I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I got to come down to
Uh,
Houston and you
yeah.
know check you out."
So
Yeah.
none.
Um. So yeah, yeah, zero chance. Like, well, okay. Uh. So the first album, they only had three. So I'm gonna pick two of the three. They're all good albums, but the first album, the one I love the most, is 2006 Intelligent Design, and it just starts off with a great song. The whole album is like a journey. Every song is a little different. There's like mellow songs, and we had different vocalizations between like clean, beautiful harmonies, like layered harmonies that are like dripping like with honey. And then you got these like death metal vocals, and then you got these really interesting segues of music that are almost quiet and with with interesting sitar sounds and the instruments. Then you got
Hmm.
these like death metal riffs. So there's it's like all you're never going to get bored because every song is packed with all kinds of different sounds and sonic kinds of pleasure, you know. So 2006 Intelligent Design, the two songs I would pull from, Fall, Rise, Laugh, Fall is really great. And then the first half of Yesterday, toward the end of the album. Those are really wonderful. The next album that I think is phenomenal to listen to is 2010, Five Deadly Venoms. And because that's Five Deadly Venoms is it's a Shaw Brothers movie, Shaolin movie.
Oh
That's where you
yeah,
get the Shaolin Death Squad comes from, the Shaolin, monks,
yeah,
and they
fun
dress
movie.
up like these characters when they're playing, which is, all the better reason to go see them. So the two trick tracks I would pick on for this one are Snake, which is fantastic, and then Let Us Welcome the Actors. And what I like so much about Let Us Welcome the Actors is very much there's a Pink Floyd vibe. It's kind of discordant, odd jumps in style, but it's you can definitely see the influence of Pink Floyd in their music on that one. Um,
Wow, that's
and
really cool. Yeah.
yeah, it is. They're really good albums. And my one song to rule them all from them is from Intelligent Design. It's track one. It's A Terrible Way to Use a Sword. It just opens up with these like really interesting drum beat and then these like lush harmonies, like four harmonies going right away. Like, oh, and then within a few seconds, then you get this kind of blast beat. You got it's just this whole it's like
Nice.
epitomizes what they are to me. When I first heard this album a couple years ago, I could not stop listening to it. I would listen to it, 10 times a day. And it just you know, just was phenomenal. Like
That's
Sermon
phenomenal.
first album, like
Yeah, yeah,
or Golden Verse. Like
yeah.
the only reason why I didn't pick them is like because they've got only one album. Well, there are
You're right.
two. Of Golden Verse is genius,
Okay,
but
yeah.
anyway, yes, Shaolin Death Squad. A Terrible Way to Use a Sword, and you can go to Bandcamp and check them out. You can go to YouTube, give it a listen. But there's for me, A Terrible Way to Use a Sword, Shaolin Death Squad.
Great choice, my friend. Um, my next choice is a band formed in 1992 in Seattle, Washington, and that's Nevermore.
Mm.
Huge Nevermore fan. Um, I remember two or three of the members. Uh, they got out of the, uh, I think, iconic legend should be have more notoriety. Sanctuary, legendary band, and that was singer Worrell Dane, bassist Jim Shepard, and I believe Jeff Loomis on guitar. And they started. They said, "Well, we're going to form Nevermore." How I first got introduced to them was I saw their debut album at a record store back in the day when they used to have them.
Yeah.
Um, and I saw the debut. I'm like, Nevermore. Okay. And, of course, we didn't have the internet then, but it was like interesting. It looked metal. I loved their logo, the way it's spelled out and everything like that. And I said, okay. I took a chance, picked it up, blown the fuck away. As soon as I heard the vocalist, Worrell Dane, I said, fuck, man, it's from Sanctuary. And I was already a huge Sanctuary fan with their first two releases before that. Um, and what I love about them is just uh, number one, Worrell Dane's voice is so unique. Right now, there's rumors that they're 2025. Jeff Loomis and Van Williams, the drummer, are reforming Nevermore.
Oh,
But the controversy is they didn't invite Jim Shepard back, and they didn't say, and he's a founding member. So
um,
that's going on.
did
That has
they
yet
did
to
they
be
have
proved.
a bad did they have a bad split, an acrimonious split?
Just Jeff Loomis and Van Williams decided that we're going a different direction,
Okay.
apparently, and they
Hmm.
left Jim out of it, which I kind of shitty. But I don't know how you're going to find. They're auditioning for singers and bass players, but how are you going to find somebody who can feel the unique voice of Worrell Dane?
Yeah.
I'm hoping it isn't. If you get somebody that's an exact copycat, they do their own little
Right.
thing too, but can
Right.
still hold true and give respect to
Yeah,
his
kind of
voice.
like the new singer for Alice in Chains. I never learned his
Yeah,
name. So
yeah, William Duvall. Yeah.
okay, good singer. You know.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but I just and I love
Didn't
Worrell's.
Curran Murphy was a touring musician with
He was a
Nevermore,
touring
right?
music. Yeah.
And Annihilator too.
Yep. Um, and what I love about Worrell is he has such a his dark poetic lyrics that he wrote in so many tracks. It was just gut wrenching at times. But I have some examples to show from. I don't have the physical in my hand, Dead Heart in a Dead World, but I'd say that is like that's a top tier fucking Nevermore album.
Okay.
Um, but I'd say this is one of my favorites as well. Dreaming Neon Black.
Okay. Didn't Nevermore open for Nile one time when we went to go see them, or King Diamond, or
I,
was it? Wasn't it Nevermore?
it might have been
And
Nevermore.
there was
Might have been,
someone else. It might have been Nevermore because the singer was being all dicky. Because he certainly like left not too long after that or something like that. I forget who it
yeah,
was.
maybe
It
it
might have
was.
been. might have been Nile. Fuck. Didn't Nile open for King Diamond one time? Right?
Yes, yes,
When
it
we
was
saw him
Nile.
on. So it
Yeah,
was
well,
Nile, and then it might have been
they had their
someone.
old singer and stuff, Dallas Tober Wade or whatever, and
Yeah, I think it. I
I was
think.
yelling, "Black Seeds, Black!" Like, fuck, I was gonna play. Yeah, pissed off. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, we
that
saw
was
them at
funny.
House of Blues, but I think it might have been Nevermore. I think it
I
was Nevermore and Nile and King Diamond.
okay,
I think.
yeah.
I know. I think we remember seeing them because you were telling me something about the singer because I didn't really know the band at the time, and I thought they were really good musically,
Oh,
but I
they're
don't think they.
outstanding.
But I'm like, oh, these guys are really good.
Well, unfortunately, some years back, gosh, how long has it been? Been a while since we unfortunately lost Worrell. He was recording his second solo album, and apparently he was in Brazil doing this with a bunch of other new musicians, and he reported that he just was very tired, wasn't feeling the greatest. But when he went to sleep, he never woke back up. Uh, he died of a heart attack in his sleep. He had struggled through a lot of personal addiction issues and some other stuff, and but he's sorely missed on my end. Highly underrated band. Um, I've been a fan ever since their debut. Um, and then I got this beauty, this Godless Endeavor.
Yeah, that's good.
I got that one on Gigantor, because they were playing, and I'm like, okay. And then I got autographs from the band.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's
Other
sweet.
than Worrell Dane, Worrell was not available because I said to the other bands,
Yeah.
where's Worrell at? Something. He's like, oh, he's back in the tour bus, something like that. And I'm like, well,
Uh,
fuck, I want to get. But other than that,
right.
that was a hell of a, again, you get $20 for the CD and you get autographs there. Back in a time when it was a
That's pretty
good
cool.
deal. You didn't have to pay 20 for the CD and 50 for autographs or something.
Right. Right.
So, but if I had to go off a track, and there's many I could choose from, let me just say this: I think uh, "Dead Heart in a Dead World," the title track off that album, "Believe in Nothing," which is a beautiful, heart wrenching, powerful ballad that they've done. Narcosynthesis, Dreaming Neon Black, uh, fuck man, Beyond Within. I, but if I had to say, you want to get into them, and it's the first thing you hear, and it has everything a little bit, it's off This Godless Endeavor, and it is the title track, This Godless Endeavor. I think you're
Excellent.
going to get everything. So, yeah, huge fan.
Yes.
Um, Anxious to see where it's going to go in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of
Excellent.
my picks.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that we haven't like cross-pollinated yet.
We
I think
haven't
we
yet.
will. I think we will
There's
though.
something
Maybe
coming up.
I think there are a couple that might. Maybe this next one. Um I like that you know when these bands formed because I don't remember that shit. But this is a band that I do know that they met at Berklee College of Music and said, "Let's drop out of music and start a band because we're so much better." This is Dream Theater and Dread Bull's favorite band. And I will
Mhm.
admit, I've not listened to Dream Theater for a long time because I don't know, something happened. I hit a wall or I just wasn't in the mood for that kind of music because it's
Mhm.
not passive music. Like you
No, you have
gotta
to.
pay attention to
Yeah.
Dream Theater, you know? Um, I mean, old stuff I can put it on if I'm working because I've heard it before, but you know, I haven't listened to the big opera. I haven't listened to the new one. I didn't like their stuff with Mike Mangini as much. I just didn't think it was as good. Um, Especially the mix. The drums were just mixed terribly. I'm like, it's Dream Theater. What is wrong with you guys? I mean, you want those drums to be pronounced, you know? But my three albums, the first one is from 1995. It's A Change of Seasons. And it's an EP essentially. Well, no, it's not. It's still an album, but it's only got one side of original music.
Yes.
Yeah, A Change of Seasons is a 23-minute epic. So now we're here, we've got 23 minutes of Prog, which I absolutely love. Change of Seasons. I think it's fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, that I couldn't pick between the one song to rule them all. I think I almost gave that one away. I'm like, but I've got another one I think is as good. And it's not as long. It's not 23 minutes. It's only 12. Um, so, and then the side two is a bunch of live covers, and they're all perfect. From Love Lies Bleeding, Funeral for a Friend, Perfect Strangers, you know.
Yeah, it's great covers.
solid. And
Yeah.
Dream Theater has a history of doing covers when they're on the road, especially if they're playing a venue 2 nights. Like set night number 2, they'll play a cover set. They'll do some covers. So they've done Master Puppets as a whole out, whole thing they've done.
Number of the
Number of the
Beast.
Beast.
They
They
did
do
Made
cover.
in Japan by Purple.
Yeah,
Too.
yeah. They cover Rush. So um, so yeah, Change of Seasons is the first album. The next one, 1999, which I think is maybe one of their most ambitious albums, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from Memory. It's a concept album that's kind of a sweet and bitter mystery
Mhm.
set in a couple different times back and forth. And it's got some really, I'm not a ballad fan, but it's got some really lovely ballads
So,
on there.
yeah.
But I think some of the most ambitious music they had done. And again, I've not listened to them in the last couple albums they did. I just haven't been in the mood for them, so I don't know what they're doing or what they had done. So, but the 2 tracks on Metropolis, I would say Home, which I think is phenomenal. So it's just a great one. And then The Dance of Eternity, which is just a musical piece. But you go back through all kinds of different musical styles back and forth. And what I love is they go into this ragtime little thing with this, keyboard. It's like
Yeah.
1920s ragtime, and then into this like double bass, like speed metal kind of thing right after that.
Yeah.
It's like seamless transitions between these really disparate kinds of musical styles.
Yeah.
Um, that really kind of that album, I think, was a hallmark of their career. Like it's
Yes.
just phenomenal. And then I think that more recent, again, this is still older, tells you how much I really know their stuff. 2003, Train of Thought, I think, has some really, really great songs. Honor Thy Father has some of the most complex, kind of syncopated rhythms and just crazy stuff that you're ever going to hear. Same thing with Stream of Consciousness. Phenomenally put together songs, really complicated songs with all kinds
Yeah.
of time changes, signature changes, tempo changes. Um, and everyone gets to showcase their talent. Every instrument is showcased in some way, shape, or form. So if you're a bass player, you're going to hear that. If you don't have to just be worrying about waiting for the guitar solo to come.
Right.
So yeah. And if there was any one drummer who could play and do justice to Rush, like if they were playing with a Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, it would be Mike Portnoy.
Yeah.
Um, and nothing against Mike Mangini. He's a cigar smoker. He's a phenomenal drummer. He's very technically proficient, you know. But to me, it's like the difference between Paul Bostaff and Dave Lombardo when
Right.
kind of playing for Slayer. Bostaff's really great, technically proficient, but he sounds more mechanical, whereas Dave
It's
Lombardo feels.
interesting you say that, Monte, because I was watching an interview with Portnoy recently, and he praised Mike Mangini. He says we're just two different cats. He's like, Mike is he goes very mechanical, very as far as every note has to be perfect. He goes, I'm more feel. He goes, and that's just the difference. He
Yeah,
goes, but yeah, and you
yeah,
can hear it. You can hear the
yes.
differences,
Oh, certainly, yeah. I mean, he was a good
especially
pick,
yeah. It was a good pick.
good pick,
Um,
but the
and we'll
music is
get
different.
yeah, and we'll get to that little band a little bit and a little later, but we're going to cross on that one, but
Well,
no
you could
problem.
come in since we're talking about it, you can bring yours in if you
Do it
want
now.
to.
Okay, I
Well,
will do it
wait,
now.
but so yeah, and then my one song
Oh,
to
go ahead.
rule them all, it would be Home from Metropolis too. Um, yeah, I think we're both fans, and I agree. Yeah, it's like Portnoy to me is the better drummer because it's more play by feel, and Peart was the best of both. He was very technically precise, but he also played a lot by feel, And there are some drummers who rarely play the same fill twice. I think Nico McBrain is one of those drummers. He some days I think I could really hear the effort, and other times I've
Yeah,
seen them live where it was kind of like phoned in. I could tell, especially when we saw them on the Virtual 11 tour.
yeah,
I thought that was a fairly weak performance that he had. But it's like we we weren't we weren't being treated to the real Maiden. Let's just say that.
yeah.
Um, you know, and since Wasp didn't show up, that was a major draw. I'm like,
Come
oh man,
on, Cleveland,
yeah,
please, please.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, Yeah, Dream Theater is one of those bands that it's like I know I will like once I start listening to them because I love their music. I
Yeah.
just don't feel in the mood for them, you know.
Mhm.
So now you said this was a cross pollination for you as
This would have
well.
been my number one.
Okay,
But
let's
since
talk
we're in
about it.
it right now, let's talk
Yeah,
about
why
it.
not?
Yeah, Dream Theater. First introduced to them, they're formed in 1985 in Boston. Um, they all met in Berklee College of Music. Um, and first time I heard of them was I heard the song "Pull Me Under" from
Mm,
This Beauty, Images
mhm.
and Words, the second album,
Yeah.
and I was automatically, "What the hell is this?" Is it the intricate drumming, the insane guitar playing, the production's phenomenal on the album, and I was just like, "Yeah, a fan. I've taken in right ever since then."
Hmm.
Um, and then you go to like Awake, their second album, which I think is highly
Yeah.
underrated.
Yeah.
You
I
just
almost
talked
put that
about it,
on there. Yeah.
Monte,
Just from
Metropolis
memory.
Part Two.
Yeah.
Um,
I almost
and
put
then
Awake on. Yeah, because Awake
yeah,
has a Caught in a Web, and you can really hear the theme of Caught in a Web run through like into the Quiet
oh,
Man. You know,
and
it's
then
really beautiful. Yeah.
Space Divest, just
Hmm.
it brings chills to me. Um, and then Train of Thought,
Hmm.
arguably one of their heaviest albums, and
Yeah.
one of my
Super heavy.
favorites. One of
Yeah.
my favorites.
Super heavy.
So what I love about this is now we have the return of the king, Mark Portnoy, on Parasomnia. Huh, I seem to have this new album. I don't know where it came from. Where did this come? But anyway, but this is, you remember we talked about how you felt the difference, you heard the difference between Portnoy's playing and Mangini. Wow, full fucking force form on this. He makes this fucking album. I mean, it's just incredible. Um, but the songs are there too. They sound refreshed since his return. They sound like more energized. Parasomnia is basically all the things that disturb sleep, I guess is the definition
Okay.
of it. And so there's songs in here like Night Terror, A Broken Man about a guy who went through PTSD that keeps him awake. Uh, Midnight Messiah, where we can basically be anything in our dreams, or like our own Messiah. And then the
Like
Shadow
lucid
Man
dreaming.
incident. Yeah, the Shadow Man incident, the last song. 19 minutes and 32 seconds long. Epic, 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 epic. But so I
Nice.
highly recommend Montag. Do yourself a favor. Check out this new album, and you will not be disappointed.
All
Um,
right.
if I had to give a choice on a track, I'm going to surprise you a little bit. I'm going to go back to their second album, and I'm going to go to the track Metropolis Part One
It's a
off
great
Images
song.
and Words.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
great.
that has all the elements, and your suggestion you were talking about as well. It's just, I don't know. It's just, if you like that, you're going to pretty much like a lot of their catalog, if not most of it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that is
And
my choice for Dream Theater.
and when you go back and now when you go back and listen to that second album, when you hear Pull Me Under, it sounds so unprog, unlike them, because it's so simple. You know,
Yeah,
it's good. It's a good song. It's very commercial, very catchy. You can hear the roots. It's like they allowed themselves to get more complex with every album. You know, they pushed and
right.
pushed and pushed, and let's see what we can do. And I know some people don't like those because those long tracks, because they become masturbatory and things like that. And Dream Theater is certainly guilty of that at times. But you
Oh,
know,
absolutely agreed.
but it's a masturbation that I don't mind listening to. And I'll say that again. I don't mind listening to Dream Theater's masturbation. Okay, because it's really great. Um, so they can just whack off musically for an hour. That's perfectly fine with me.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know. No, I get it. It's just I have to be in the mood for it, and I haven't been in the mood for that lately. So, but I'm sure once I get back in the mood, then I'll be going back to those albums that I've not listened to for a long time, like
Mhm.
for a decade, like like Train of Thought. Like I remember liking it, like oh, this is really heavy,
Oh, yeah.
but I want to go back and listen to these tracks and give them real listens to. Like I listened to the two albums. Was it two they did with Mangini? Three?
Oh, they did like
Um,
four. Yeah.
Four? Oh, maybe I didn't
Yeah.
listen to them all. I thought that other than the music, the value, the production, the first album wasn't that good. The second album was much better. Like I felt a little more relaxed. But
Mhm.
again, Mangini's playing is just a different animal. It's just different. And
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. Just for Dream Theater, I think Portnoy is the better fit.
Agreed.
All right. Um,
And by the way, uh they are on their 40th anniversary tour this year.
Right.
So
Yeah, they're coming to Cleveland.
yeah, I seen the ticket price. I'm like, okay.
How much are they?
It was at Northfield Parkway, and there was already resale tickets, and I think they were like over $130. So I'm like, oh, this.
Yeah, a
I'm
little
like,
bit rich,
like
a little bit
fuck.
rich.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Love to
why.
see him again, man. Love to see him
Yeah,
again, but
same thing. I wanted to
I
go see
just,
King Diamond, and like, I
yeah,
just don't know if it's worth like the $80 or $100 or whatever it was. I mean, good
yeah,
bill,
yeah. Oh, great bill. Yeah,
with Night Demon and Overkill, and
right.
great. But it's like it's $100, like,
Yeah,
yeah. I can't fault them for wanting to make money. I get it's
no,
expensive to be on the road.
absolutely.
It just like, and I'm getting spoiled. I admit I'm getting spoiled by paying for these underground metal bands,
For
20,
sure.
30 bucks. 30
And you
bucks is
still
not the out room, is at
fantastic
the out time.
time. And yeah,
Yeah. Had a great show. Great time. Should we count that as your next one since it was kind of piggy-tailed on mine, or do you want to give your
sure.
next? Well, yeah, might as well, because then we'll be even.
Right.
Yeah, because otherwise be ahead. This next one you might be chiming in as well. This is a band from Toronto, Canada that we've seen several times. This is a little band called Rush. We actually did a show finishing up our Rush deep
Uh-huh.
dive few weeks ago. And so Rush, what can you say that we haven't said about Rush? They're my favorite band. The three albums that I would pick for people, again, this was really hard. And I was going
That's
for
really difficult, dude. Yeah.
Prog elements. Because Rush definitely borrows from Yes. And a lot of bands like Dream Theater borrow from Rush. So,
Absolutely.
to kind of everyone kind of influences the other.
Yeah.
I think my favorite Rush album, 1975, Caress of Steel. I know this is a very controversial, divisive album. I absolutely love it. I think it's just phenomenal. And the two songs that really sell it for me, The Necromancer, but more to that, The Fountain of Lamneth. Because that's one of those ones that's
Oh
broken down
yeah.
to like 6 parts, and it's like a whole side of the album, you know. And I just love it. I love Fountain of Lambeth. It's just so dark and beautiful, and so emotionally evocative. N- you know, uh, it's just it's a very personal feeling album to me. I mean, there is that one, Lakeside Park is on it as well. Then there's that Goofy, I
Mhm.
think I'm going bald, but phenomenal album.
Yeah.
Uh, my next pick would be 1977, A Farewell to Kings, with um two phenomenal tracks, Xanadu, that wonderful Xanadu, and then Cygnus X1, which is just the space adventure,
So
uh
fucking great.
science excuse me, yeah, science fiction, um gods and things like that. It's just all there. uh and my third pick would be the sequel. Let's start off with 1978's Hemispheres, Cygnus X1, Book 2, Hemispheres, and then La Via Strangiato, which is just a musical piece.
Dude,
And I think their best musical piece.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, I mean, I like YYZ. It's very catchy, but Olivia Strangiato just really goes right out there, and
Yeah.
it was just amazing to hear that, and I love watching reactions to it because people are like, oh, they just get freaked out, like, oh my God, how good it is. I'm like, yeah, yeah, it's fucking
Fucking
amazing,
playing. Yeah.
exactly. So while I love Rush and I so love Clockwork Angels, by that era of Rush, the prog elements were less so, and they just became a really great, still a really good rock band with
Mhm.
untraditional, let's just say, elements, but they weren't as progressive. Nothing faulting them. I'm totally fine with that. I don't mind seeing a band adapt and change, and grow and be what they want to be.
Mhm.
But my one song to rule them all is Xanadu from A Farewell to Kings. I think that's the song where if you watch, or especially if you see the live video, them performing it back in like 1978 or
Yeah.
80, um, if you can watch that, listen to that, and you'll know exactly what you're getting with Rush. So there's
Absolutely
there's
agree.
my fourth pick.
Okay. I have for my fifth final pick. Um, see, I chose all my picks. You chose progressive rock as well as kind of metal
Sure.
bands.
Yeah.
I stuck to just progressive metal. So, but I don't disagree with your choices,
Mhm.
especially Rush for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But my next pick is a band formed in 1982 in Connecticut. Little band by the name of Fates Warning.
Ah.
Um, I was first introduced to Fates 1986. I saw at a record store as a cassette of Awaken the Guardian. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. The artwork kind of spoke to me, and being into fantasy stuff and sci-fi and horror and all that, I was just like, really cool. I put that in the first, I was just blown away, blown the hell away. Every track is perfection. John Arch, original vocalist, has a unique vocal styling that it's not going to be for everybody. Sort of like if you're saying to people, if you're not a fan of, King Diamond, then, you know, it's an acquired taste. Let's put it that way. But I like his voice. I never had a really problem with it. It was a very unique style. And then it came on with Ray Alder, who debuted in it might have been 88 with No Exit, Anarchy Divine, and some of the other songs on there. But then, Ray Alder, and then he continued on and made opuses, with the bands such as This Beauty, Parallels, which is
Hmm.
absolutely superb.
Yeah.
Now, I saw them for the first time live, and they were playing a place called Flashes, a club in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist anymore. And it was, I forget who opened up, but I was with a couple buddies, and I was blown away. And I got to meet Ray Alder and Jim Matheos. But yeah, Parallels, I saw them, but I got to meet Jim and Ray outside the venue by the tour bus. And Ray wanted to talk more, but he had a bunch of interviews coming up. But he signed like a ticket stub. Jim Matheos signed the same. Jim really didn't talk or anything, but he was gracious enough to stand there. He was eating an apple, I think, in his mouth, signing stuff. That was awesome. And then, went on to other classics such as Pleasant Shade of Gray, which is basically
Hmm.
one song in 8 parts,
Yeah.
42 minutes long, but
Yeah.
it's phenomenal.
Yes, it is.
One of the most recent ones that I really, really listened the hell out of this. Theories, is it Theory? Yeah, Theories of Flight.
Oh, I don't have that one.
This is absolutely gorgeous. Uh, from the Rooftop, 7 stars, the light and shade of things. Oh my God, White Flag, dude. I could go on and on and on. It's perfection. This whole album. So highly recommend this. If I had to choose, excuse me, choose a track that encompasses everything. Maybe it's nostalgia for me. Man, my voice, excuse me. It would be the title track from 1986, Awaken the Guardian. The musicality, the emotion, the depth of everything, the amazing soloing on it, lyrical content. It just, there's a gravitas to it for me. So I would highly recommend an Awaken the Guardian. And then, Ray Alder's kind of stuff, I'd say anything he's done with them. So,
Hmm.
yeah, but it's just, I think they're the most underrated progressive metal band in history, and they've been taunted a lot of times as it's basically saying that they were the fathers of progressive metal,
Hmm.
even before Dream Theater. So a lot of people hold them in that regard, that they actually started the movement of progressive
Hmm.
metal. So I know that's a big,
Yeah, I had to
quite a
kind of
title
look
to
at the
put.
timeline. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of influences there for sure. I like Fates
Sure.
Warning as well. We saw them
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
That was a great triple bill with
Oh my
Fates
gosh,
Warning and
Dream Theater,
Dream
Queensryche.
Theater and Queensryche. Yeah, that was phenomenal. I Fates Warning is also on my also rants as well because I'm like they're just too good not to put on the list.
Yeah.
Had we done 10 each, then we probably would have a lot of these, we obviously would
Oh,
have these
sure.
crossovers. My two I picked FWX, Face Warning 10. Um, a great album, and then A Pleasant Shade of Gray. I
Yeah.
love that album as well for all those reasons. Yeah, there isn't much about them I don't like. I've really liked everything they've done. I love how their sound changes and they go, but they're still kind of definably who they are.
Hmm.
So yeah, they're just a great band, and they're a little more accessible, I think, than bands like Dream Theater. Like if you're
Yeah.
not necessarily into prog rock, or if you're not a musician and you want to hear this like You don't want to hear masturbation. I think Fates Warning is a little more friendlier in that regard, a little more accessible for the
Yeah.
casual listener. Nothing
Oh,
against
great.
Fates Warning, but I think their
No,
music is just a little easier to get into. So
right. And they've had, I think, a little more melodic things, such as We Only Say Goodbye, and oh gosh, it's off of Perfect Symmetry. Um,
that's a good album.
but they've had, Eye to Eye, Point of View.
Mhm.
They're just a little bit, like you said, I agree with you, the accessibility part a little bit more. And maybe it's
Yeah.
just because of how it's structured and the choruses are. So,
Hmm. Yeah, could be. Yeah, yeah, good band. And my last song, I think my cap is giving it away. The band from Sweden, Opeth. Um, Absolutely love this band. I really do. I'd love to have them on the show
can't tell
sometime.
by the hat, Montag. Yeah.
Oh, I
We
don't
get that.
know. Who might we want to be? Yeah. Um, yeah, and Opeth is a band that it's interesting. I love when we play our hot seat when we have our guests on because a lot of people don't know
They don't
Opeth, and I'm
know.
like, how the fuck do you not know this band? You know, but I didn't. I found them accidentally. It was through listening to my computer like 20 years ago. I was like on a jukebox or something, and it like was
Mhm.
playing a song that said, "Hey, if you like this, you might like to try these bands." And one was like Opeth, and I think it might have been the song like Deliverance or something like that. Or I'm like,
Mhm.
Opeth, who are these guys? So I managed to find these songs and yeah, I downloaded them and like listened to them like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. But Opeth started their career with, traditional like all those black metal kind of with the growly death metal vocals,
Mhm.
but their melodies were very kind of complex and melodic. The rhythms were, melodic and even though they weren't like this, they weren't like Cannibal Corpse. They weren't like that brutal death. This was very
Yeah.
melodic, and their songs were kind of dark and haunting and ethereal at times. And then as they kept going, their music, like especially the album Damnation was their first like all acoustic album. Phenomenal record. But there's a division. A lot of old Opeth fans don't like the songs where Michael doesn't do the death metal growls. And I
Mhm.
actually kind of prefer those and because I can hear what he's singing a lot better. And like I want to hear because he's got a great voice.
Yes.
Um, so my three albums that I would pick are more contemporary. I think 2011 then when they were doing that about 15 years ago, they were doing the albums were combinations of like clean vocals, death metal vocals.
Right.
But the first track on the album, the second track is like The Devil's Orchard. Phenomenal record. It's very kind of jazzy, really, really great. And then Famine, later track on the album. Again, if we want to showcase musicianship and that prog element, I think those two. The next is probably it might be my favorite of their albums, 2014's Pale Communion.
Mm.
I love the opening track, Eternal Rains Will Come, because it takes about 2.5 minutes before you even get to any like singing. And there's this beautiful like harmonies and melodies. And then if you're a fan of the like Goblin, the band Goblin, who does like
Mm.
soundtracks for things, there's a song called Goblin on there where it's all musical and it's their tribute to Goblin. But
Oh,
earlier in
nice.
Eternal Rains Will Come, there's this little section where I'm like, that's fucking Goblin. I'm like, that
Sweet.
is, and I was like, that's totally Goblin, the sound of it. And so I sent that clip to my friend who's a huge Italian cinema fan. And he's like, totally pick up on the Goblin thing. So that Eternal Rains Will Come and then River. And River it's a beautiful country song. It's like bluegrass in a way. These beautiful melodies, acoustic guitars, some kind of really nice echoey guitar. It's almost like a steel guitar, and it's just this beautiful, mournful song. The lyrics are so dark, but the music is
Right.
beautiful and mournful. So yeah, River is gorgeous. Um, and then 2019's In Cauda Venum or Venomum. Um, Phenomenal album. Their last couple albums have taken me a couple listens, and I've only listened to the brand new one only one time.
I was
So
going to ask you about that Last Will and
yeah,
Testament.
and I wasn't a real honest, I mean, I had it going when I was doing work, and it's probably not the way to listen to Opeth the first time
Sure.
through. So I'm gonna listen to it again, just listening to it, but I'm excited about it. Uh, Incauda, Venomum, Heart in Hand, and the Garroter or the Garroter. I love the dark, weird ton of doom, 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 doom. It's a very kind of dark jazz on the Garroter. Very unusual kind of riff. It reminds me a little bit of the Rush song Double Agent on Counterparts.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
something really unusual that you don't expect from them, but it's this real kind of heavy with the heavy keyboard and this really almost like whispery guitar, you know. So those are my three picks. And then if I had to pick one song to rule them all, this is actually from Ghost Reveries, and it is Harlequin Forest. Harlequin Forest, yeah, it just sums up the Opeth experience in one song. It starts off with this real heavy riff with clean vocals, and it breaks down. Then you hear the death metal growl with this like really complicated rhythm. Then the whole song gets quiet for this extended musical piece that's very kind of beautiful and haunting, very, very quiet, you know. And then the song just finishes with all these flourishes and clean and death metal vocals. Yeah, Harlequin Forest is the trip. It's a journey. It's an emotional, and it's a storytelling song. Again,
Mhm.
another horror song. Um, and just phenomenal. You know,
Great choices.
yeah. Um, wow. I That does the five for both of us. Do you have any also more also rants? I got three more also rants that I'd like to mention.
I got one more also rant, but I almost consider putting in the list, but I don't consider. I only consider like the first few albums progressive metal, and
Okay.
it might be controversial. We can talk about it, but Queensryche.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that
Hmm.
the EP, The
Yeah.
Warning, and
Hmm.
Rage for Order, I think are the most
Yeah.
progressive things they've done in their career, arguably. But because I
Yeah.
think they went on from there to more just general metal, and then they
Yeah.
really got more commercial with Empire
Right.
and in Promised Land. It had a little bit tinges, but it was still staying on the same thing as
Yeah.
Empire.
Yeah.
And then I
Right.
just think as time went on, yeah, it just wasn't what I consider progressive metal. I considered bands that I chose progressive metal kind of runs throughout their entire gamut, to some degree. And Queensryche just kind of those first three releases, it kind of cuts
Hmm.
from there. But still,
Yeah. Rage
honorably,
for
I
Order.
mean, so great. Love
Yeah.
Queensryche.
I love those first two. The EP is good. I love the first two albums.
Yeah,
Um, Take Hold of the Flame is just one of my absolute favorite songs from
that's
them.
that. Like I said, that's a song I give to
Yeah.
people. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Take Hold of the Flame. Rage for Order is phenomenal. I love that album. Again, yes, I totally agree. By the time Operation Mindcrime comes around, they were breaking that bridge to more of the heavier rock, and there are prog elements in there. Um,
Mhm.
I think Sweet Sister Mary is a good example of that prog, but
That's
there's
true.
also radio friendly commercial like Eyes of a Stranger is very much
I don't
radio
believe in
friendly.
love, and
Yeah, it's very
all that.
straightforward rock. So,
Mhm.
and they never looked back with, again, other than occasional nods, like Right Side of My Mind almost feels a little bit like there's some stuff on Q2K I think that comes close to that at times, but the prog was all gone. So I totally
Right.
agree. Yeah.
Cool.
Um my first also or third also ran would be Genesis. Anything with Peter Gabriel.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I'm not a fan of Phil Collins as a singer. I think by that when he took over that album he did with Abacab and things, there were still some elements of commercial like Genesis, but I just by the time like Invisible Touch came around, it was just shit. I'm sorry, Phil Collins. But
Oh,
those first
no.
couple albums with those first four or so albums with Peter Gabriel
Yeah.
are really pushing the boundaries. And I don't like everything, but I can admire it.
Mhm.
Fuck, oh, there's one I forgot to add to the list. But I just think if you're going to listen to anything, as long as Phil Collins is behind the drum set, let someone else do the singing, Peter Gabriel. I think that would be the way to go because his voice was so unique and their music was really, really, really trying for different things. And I'm sure a lot of that had to do with him. But once Phil Collins came in, they just went more commercial. They made a lot more money, but they just became a commercial pop band, and I lost all interest.
Okay.
Uh, My next one would be Pink Floyd. I think in 4 albums in particular, Animals, Wish You Were
Definitely.
Here, Dark Side of the Moon, and The Wall. And I think
Yeah.
those are really good. And I like metal too. Before that, metal,
Yeah, I do too.
Stars Are Full of Secrets. There's some other weird stuff that they get. Like before they kind of get their sound, it's just bizarre. There's a lot of like,
Yeah.
it's the whole acid influence, and Sid Barrett's just going
Yeah.
crazy.
Very psychedelia. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really not good.
No,
Like
really not.
Omaguma, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
But Animals is
Fuck.
really interesting, really great. I like metal too, but I
Yeah.
Wish You Were Here again. Some really, even though it's very radio friendly, it is prog. It just really is. I think Money is one of those, got that great bass line and
Hmm.
off tempo, off syncopated drum beats. Um, Wish You Were Here is a wonderful track,
Yeah.
and The Wall's a magnum opus, you
Right.
know. Yeah. Um, Dark Side of the Moon is what ran for 200 and oh God, Jesus, it was on the list in the top
Oh,
200 for like
forever.
40 some years. Yeah, it was like they, you know they they
Decades.
made so much money off that album. They're just like, we don't have to do anything ever again. Um,
Great choice.
and then my last choice that I had, this is a one really great album. Then they get really hard for me, but I know how good they are. It just they're hard. King Crimson. Um, the album I would go for is The Court of the Crimson King. I think that's a phenomenal album. I love,
Yeah.
especially the title track. Love that song. Got these great, this great strings and this chorus
Hmm.
with this, the stuff. The albums and the stuff they do after that just get really fucking bonkers, and I, I just don't. Maybe it's just have to be in the mood for it. I'm not high enough for it. I'm too high for it. I don't know. I just can't get into it as much.
Right.
I mean, I want to, but it's just not right now. It's like Frank Zappa for me. Like he was almost on my
Yeah.
list as well.
I
He's not
can't.
really metal because he's more a composer, and he's hit and miss
Right.
for me too.
Sure.
Certainly did weird stuff and
Oh, yeah.
pushed boundaries as an artist, and I admire that. I
Hmm.
I don't like everything he does, but there are
No,
some things that I think are really funny. I like his sarcasm and satire almost, but anyway, King Crimson is the last truly prog band for me on this. Uh, and I know there are so many bands out there that
so
are
many.
progressive. So if you have an idea or you want to send us some ideas about some of your favorite progressive bands that we could give a listen to, please send them our way. We'd love to have
Absolutely.
that. So, uh, boy, is there anything else we can talk about? I think we're pretty
Uh,
good.
we're pretty good on this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, all right then. Well, we'll just prog out of here. Hey, you can find heavy metal horror on unsaneradio.com, listen to full episodes, or download to your device. You can find us on Facebook, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. On Instagram, look for Montag Lewis. One word, our YouTube page, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. If you're watching, that's where you're at. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you know someone who'd like our show, tell them about us. This has been Montag, Master of Illusion.
Chop top.
You've been watching and progging to Heavy Metal Horror.
This is Doug Helvering, and you have been listening to Heavy Metal Horror, the best podcast that you've never heard before.